Welcome to the Red Rose Film Club, a movie podcast that picks apart movies from the viewpoint of the political left. We love deconstructing movies almost as much as watching them, and wanted to share our conversations with our liberal, leftist, socialist, communist, Marxist, and Leninist friends. Hi, I'm Craig, and I'm with...
Hey, I'm Hal. So, Craig,
yes,
what other pop culture are you getting into these days?
I've been watching a lot of sports lately because there's a lot of cool sports stuff happening.
There's some sports happening.
NBA finals was really fun. Did you catch any of it?
I did. I was watching on and off, and I unfortunately was watching during the grievous injury.
Yeah, what a bummer. Because it was like a great series, and then... Man, and seeing the replay,
very
like
disappointing.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I saw it. When
you could see it, like, pop. I
saw it happen as it occurred live. In terms of on his calf and seeing his Achilles tendon.
Who might not know, since we didn't mention his name, but the NBA Finals between the Pacers and the Thunder went to Game 7. What you want in all great finals, and the Pacers like number one guy Tyrese Halliburton, who had like these amazing, like, last second shots all throughout the series. Well, in like the final minute of the first quarter, his Achilles tendon just like
snapped,
like up his leg. You could see it like recoil.
Yeah, it was.
I thought Chantal was telling us there was something wrong with the production, and then I realized
just
it was
recoiling
just
like an Achilles tendon that snapped.
But yeah, it was a great series. But yeah, it was a bummer.
Really,
end on a bummer.
Yeah, and it's a real bummer, right? Thinking about it, right, from the leftist perspective, when we think about like labor issues, it's like really sick and perverse that athletes are put into a position where they're incentivized to bypass like full protocols. He had a calf injury, and it's known that calf injuries, like we saw with KD, like there's a history of this happening. Like if you have a calf injury and it is not fully healed, it can make you more susceptible to Achilles tendon injuries. And Achilles tendon injuries are very hard to heal and take a long time and always require surgery. Yes. So it's really brutal to watch like a young man in the prime, right? Like this is the apex of his career in Game 7, leading his team into the final game of a really back and forth tense finals. For this to happen, it's just pretty cruel. It's a bummer.
I did want the Thunder to win ultimately, but I just wanted like a fun series, which it was. But also baseball. Did you know that my beloved Tampa Bay Rays are in like either first or second of every major stat in the last month? They have been hot.
I actually did know this because two of the people I love most in my life, one of them, my husband Mike, roots for the Yankees, and then the other, Jared, who's been a guest on this podcast, roots for the Rays. So text threads are full of this, which I have no interest in.
About the phantom Mike Judge home run.
None whatsoever. Most recent conversation revolves around that man that, was preying on a 14-year-old that was booted off the Rays.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, his trial is currently happening, but
yeah, I believe it concluded. I think that was the nature.
Did it? Okay.
He was sentenced.
Good.
But that is the most recent. But I did know that you're on a legendary streak.
Really good.
Yeah.
Well, there was a bit of controversy, which I think was kind of funny because the Rays are playing in the Yankees spring training stadium like all year long because of the damage done to the Tropicana field. So spring training fields are obviously much smaller, like all the way around, including the foul poles, like shorter. Well, Mike Judge hit like a monster shot to left, and they called it foul. And there's two different camera angles that if you look at it from one, you're like, that's 100% a foul ball. And when you look at it from the other, you're like, that's 100% a home run. And it was just very interesting. But he called foul, but it did look like it might have been a home run. But anyways, thought maybe
AI will take jobs someday.
I think it's closer than we might be thinking. But as far as movies go, I've seen a couple. One is one that I was really wanting to see, which was 28 Years Later. Did you see 28 Years Later?
I did. I believe I saw it in the first screening that it was available in Tallahassee.
What time? I went
at
the first
12:15 p.m.
Oh, no. I did.
Like at noon.
Oh, like the first one.
Yes. Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
I believe it was the first showing.
Hell yeah.
In Tallahassee.
Did you like it?
I loved it. Yes.
It was cool. It was really surprising in like a good way. Like I don't know. I mean, we don't usually do like spoilers and shit, but I don't necessarily want to spoil what it is in this one because it's
I mean, this
just one that
came
you don't
out
see coming.
like 2 weeks ago, so I feel like it's fair to not fully dive in there. But it does have some unexpected turns.
Yes.
Let me ask you this: have you ever seen Danny Boyle's film Millions?
I have not seen Millions. That's maybe the only one of his I haven't seen.
Okay. If you had asked me like what my favorite movie was, age probably like 14 to 21.
Yeah.
I would list that movie. It is it has not like retained quite that level of quality for me, but I still have a lot of affection for it. But it's a movie about two young brothers whose mother dies, and some train robbers accidentally throw money that they're stealing from a train onto their fort, and the brothers believe that it is like heaven sent. And there's kind of these magical realist elements where they see their mother, the younger boy sees their mother, and kind of envisions saints, and it's done in this very like childlike wonder way. And it reminded me a lot of the emotional journey and beats in 28 Years Later. And that was not what I was expecting. Like, if you had told me walking in, like, what is the Danny Boyle movie that this movie is most going to remind you of? Like, Millions is not
whatever's
what I was.
got guts and disgusting viscera in it. And then
but it's pretty sick because there's like
it
huge
is also
dicks.
gross.
There's a crowning scene. Like, there is crazy shit in this fucking movie. And then also it's like, wow, stirring emotional story.
Yeah. I will say that I was unaware that this was now planned to be a trilogy when I watched it. So the end, like the very ending, did leave me on like a what the fuck? Which I mean, how audacious and weird it is, I like immediately loved, but it coming on the heels of like an otherwise, like I was like, what the fuck? Because I thought this was the last one or whatever, and it now learned that there's going to be a sequel, which obviously changed how I felt about it a little bit. But when I thought this was it, I was like, what the hell is this ending?
Some interesting, so that last scene, which we won't spoil, but has no spoilers.
No spoilers, but it's a major tonal shift.
Major tonal shift, but has some fun overlap with things we've covered on the pod or things we're covering today, right? The kind of featured cameo in that final scene is one of the stars of this movie. Of the movie we're covering today. And also the next film is being directed.
The next of the 28.
The Bone Temple, yes, is being directed by...
Oh, not Danny Boyle?
No, it's being directed by Nia DaCosta, who directed the Candyman remake.
Cool.
Yes, I am so excited.
So is he giving
He's directing the third one.
Okay.
They filmed the first one and the Bone Temple simultaneously.
Oh, cool.
Or, like back to back.
So Ray Fiennes going to be in the second one, I imagine?
I believe that he is the main
guy.
Character.
That's cool. Hell
yeah. Is my understanding.
Slathered in iodine. Looking like a freak. Cool. Another movie I saw that I did not like. I guess I'm having like more of a like I did not like this movie because I feel like I'm bucking up against I know you love being a contrarian about movies, but sometimes it brings me great grief that people are going to be mad at me for a movie that is otherwise really well reviewed. But I didn't like Materialists much at all.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see it. I didn't see Past Lives. It's not a kind of movie that's appealing to me, to be honest.
The good news is it's not a lot like Past Lives.
Bad shit needs to be happening, and not just like I feel torn. Like it needs to be incredibly emotionally fraught. Well, I'm just not interested in primarily romantic films.
Well, good. Then I'll vent a little bit about why I didn't like this. So it is like, first off, I think the issue is that it is a bit it is like aiming for like satirical about like dating culture. It is aiming to be a bit of a satire, I think, in my estimation, about dating culture. And it like if you don't have a strong like comedic or satirical hand, that's all just gonna fall flat. And I think it does that a lot. Second, the protagonist, played by Dakota Johnson, is like a bit of a psycho in ways that the movie doesn't. Okay, so the thing that really like put my teeth on edge about this movie is there's a side character who is 100% played as comedic relief. okay, the premise of this movie is that Dakota Johnson works at this like matchmaking firm and is like the best one. The like, I gotcha. Like I'll get you married up or whatever. But like her own love life,
she makes that sound every time she introduces two people.
But her own love life is like in shambles. So there's this woman who's like played the entire time as like kind of comedic relief that like nobody will date her. Can't get her a date. Good God. Oh, good Lord. And then halfway through the movie, the woman is sexually assaulted for no other reason other than to like bring about the like Dakota Johnson's revelation. And then the Dakota Johnson's character, the woman like expressly says, "You introduced me to him. I don't want to fucking talk to you." And then Dakota Johnson's character goes and waits outside of her apartment to talk to her. And the movie is never like, "You're psycho." Like, what the fuck? It was just so weird. Like, it was just like, ugh. I don't know. It was just such a weird... The movie didn't take this...
I don't want to sound like a psycho, but this actually makes me more interested in seeing
No, it's not. Not in a cool way. She waits outside of her apartment to be like, "Hear me out." Not
but like people do fucked up shit.
I promise.
I am not saying that your interpretation is not correct. I haven't seen the movie. No. I just mean like
I'm saying I promise for your good. I was like, I promise you nothing interesting comes from it. Like it might sound like there could be. I didn't find like anything interesting comes from this otherwise wild choice. I will say not a lot of chemistry going on between our main stars for the most part, but I do feel like Chris Evans just kind of like carries a lot of scenes that like otherwise, I mean, I think he's just good at that. He's just like naturally charming that like the few parts I was like, oh, I'm like, oh, I can get this guy, and I was like, oh wait, I'm not liking this movie.
Glad he's in something that's not, again, not having like seen the film, not a Marvel movie, not a Netflix produced, good for him.
That's why like every time that I'm just generally like kind of about Chris Evans, and then when he like pops up in something that's not that, and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's like charming and everything else. Then I'm watching what I saw like AV Club or somebody had a funny headline that called this TV show the platonic ideal of a dad show, which is Mobland on Paramount. Have you seen anything about Mobland?
I have not watched it, but isn't Helen Mirren in this?
Is she? God, is she doing some sort of Irish brogue or? Like her and Pierce Brosnan are having a like weird off for who can do the weirder like.
I wish I could sit in on meetings with her and her agent, like over the years. Like I would just love to hear snippets of the decision making around the things that she has attached herself to, because sometimes she makes decisions where I'm like, wow, stunning. Sometimes she makes decisions where I'm like, girl, how many houses do you own? Like, how many?
This one's both.
Chauffeurs.
This one is both. Honestly,
can you pay?
First off, it's like trashy as hell. It is like the platonic ideal of a dad show. Like Tom Hardy's like a fixer for the like British.
Oh, Tom Hardy's in it.
Yeah, he is. Okay. Like if you like that, like if you like Tom Hardy, like walking up to people and being like,
I do love a mob. I mean, I love mob bullshit.
Don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying watching the show. Don't get me wrong.
How long are the episodes? This is really what's going to... Are they 45ers?
They're like, I think... they might be, actually.
They're 45ers.
I think they are.
Maybe.
I think they are.
It's driving me crazy. Some of these shows are now pushing where they're doing like 55, 75. Yeah. I'm like, just fucking make a movie. What are you doing? Yeah.
But you got to hear their accent. Like Pierce Brosnan is Irish, so his is like, but he's still doing something weird. And Helen Mirren is really being weird, but her character is diabolical. She is like this. She basically
you're really selling this for me. Evil woman.
No, I'm saying
gangsters.
That's like,
Tom Hardy.
Like she's diabolical. Let me tell you just how diabolical.
Well, next time I log into Jesse's Paramount Plus account to watch Drag Race All Stars,
put on Mobland. Yeah, you'll get a little taste of it just for. But she is like a woman. Okay, she's like the matriarch of this family who seemingly kind of like calls the shots a lot of the time. But a lot of what this first season hinges on is she diabolical and lying? Is she like misinformed, or is she petty, or what? Like, why is she telling people the things she's telling? But Pierce Brosnan has a daughter that is not from her. Like, he has grown kids, and his middle child is a woman that he had with a woman he was having an affair with. And Helen Mirren and every character is like, you fucking bitch. And like every scene just hates this woman just for the fact that it's not hers. And it's like, it's good.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
You have successfully sold it to me.
Okay, sorry. I know I'm talking a lot, but I've been watching a lot of crap. But I also, the last two things I want to talk about are both centered around Travis Scott sucking, which is, I saw the Astroworld tragedy thing on Trainwreck, which is there's not a whole lot new to learn, except that I did not realize no one has faced any consequences for that at all, which is wild. And I can't remember if we talked about it on mic last time or not, that there's a new Clips. I know we talked about it, that there's a new Clips album coming out, but they've now released a second song where he shits all over Travis Scott and is continuing to do so in interviews. And this has just been a great Pusha T media cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I like Pusha T's music and Clips' music a lot and have since high school. But one of my favorite things about Pusha T is that he just like picks fights with people about some shit that like no one was thinking about. He's just like, he did some interview. I can't remember what outlet it was with, but where they were like, why? It might have been like GQ, honestly. And they were like, why Travis Scott? Like, why are you bringing this up right now? And he's like, I just don't like that he's disloyal. Like, I just don't like it. I just don't care for it. I don't like that he's like talking shit about Drake and then he's playing, and then he's on stage with Drake. I don't like that he's disloyal to Kanye, even though I don't fuck with Kanye anymore. I just don't like that he's disloyal. I'm like, okay, principled man. But I like that he just like is like, I'm just gonna pick some shit with somebody that again no one was talking about.
I love in
this moment.
I was like, rap needs to be petty again. But what about you? What you been watching?
Well, first I'm going to talk about a book.
Ooh. No, pass. Just kidding.
So I mentioned last time that I think I had like just started, but I'm reading Crime and Punishment for the book club that I do with, previously named former guest Jared and our good friend Roz, where we previously read Women in Love and Howard's End. So the idea being we read a book that has at least one film adaptation and then watch a movie. Also, I will note that we're debating which movie adaptation we're going to watch after we finish Crime and Punishment. So if you have any thoughts, let me know. I would really like to watch the Peter Lorre one, which is I think 1935. But we're probably not going to watch the 1970s one, which is like almost 4 hours long.
I was going to say, there's also like a 10-part BBC one that came out somewhat recently.
Which is generally considered, I think the 1970s one is generally considered to be like the best, closest adaptation, but nah, we ain't doing that.
Yeah.
But we have read up to part 2 for our first meeting, which is tomorrow. And I have been doing a combination of reading the book, the physical book, and listening to an audiobook reading of it because I didn't leave enough time for myself this week and I'm like extremely overscheduled right now. And the audiobook adaptation that it's not an adaptation, it's not abridged, it's just straight up an audiobook, is the vocal actor, the person who's reading it, is Anthony Healy, I think is his name, and he's the guy who plays Dr. Chiklis. In Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, I love that guy.
And
the pissy doctor.
Yes. Childress. Yes, thank you. And
shout out my friend whose last name is that is getting married this week. Oh, mark that. Should we cut that? I don't think they'll care.
But I didn't look up, but usually I don't pay attention unless it's like someone whose name I know. If I'm listening to an audiobook, usually I don't pay attention to who is reading it, right? Beyond like, is this obstructive or not? Like, is it fun? Chilton.
So sorry.
But
his voice, I'm sorry. I realized it was not Childress, it was Chilton. His audio voice, his voice in an audiobook.
Yes, I did not realize that it was someone whose voice I knew at first, but I just kept, while listening to it, going, this is giving Silence of the Lambs. And specifically, actually, less so Silence of the Lambs. So it was making me think of Red Dragon a lot, because you spend most of the time, at least so far where I am in the book, and it's what Crime and Punishment is known for, in like the psychology of the main character, who I am unable to say his name without having looked at it, Resnikoff. That I think I skipped a syllable in there, but that was pretty close. Good enough. Anyway, but it was reminding me of Red Dragon, and then I looked it up and I was like, weird. The the guy who's reading this to me is actually in that universe, but it is giving Thomas Harris, the novel as a whole. Much more readable than I expected.
That's what I was
going
to be my question, because I always imagined it's like very stuffy, but
it's not. Okay. It's not. And it is so clear that it is the progenitor of so much like true crime and or crime adjacent writing. That's what I'm saying. It's like very much Thomas Harris, the man who wrote all of the Hannibal series, is walking in the footsteps of Dostoevsky. So it is a little more engaging than I anticipated. Not that I thought it was going to be like boring, but I did think it was going to be a little bit more of a fight.
Yeah.
And it's not. So read it, read the Russian greats. Then in terms of movies, I just wanted to mention one. I recently watched Suburbia, 1983, directed by Penelope Spheris. That's the woman who did The Decline of Western Civilization, Wayne's World. Yeah. Also, interestingly, The Little Rascals, which I only realized upon watching this movie and looking her up and being like, yeah, I know she did Wayne's World, and Decline of, what else did she, like, what did she do after that? And I'm like, the 90s version of The Little Rascals that was like a mainstay in our household when I was growing up.
And that guy is like the one that plays Alfalfa is like an alpha male Nazi now.
Yes, he went to a middle school that I went to for 1 year.
Yeah?
Yes.
Cool guy. Cool guy?
Well, he was a child. Yeah. So I don't think
everybody was picking on him because he couldn't get that piece of hair to stick down.
The reputation at the time. But
also Trump.
Yes. So it is about a group of punks who are squatting in a house in LA. And you see them, it totally makes sense that this is the woman that made the Decline of Civilization series, because you see punk shows in it frequently, like reoccurring scenes of them in punk shows. Several hardcore punk band, like real bands, are shown in it, like most notably. The one that I knew or have listened to before was the Vandals, but there are a few others as well that are, were influential in the late 70s, early 80s in the LA scene. But the thing that made me, there's two things about it that I really liked. One, as someone that like has lived in punk houses with like too many people, for all the good and bad of that, it evoked some like bittersweet nostalgia in me, though my experiences are not as decrepit as what's depicted in this movie. And also, the movie is exec produced by Roger Corman. Which you can absolutely tell because some insane shit happens in this movie. Literally, the opening scene is a girl is hitchhiking, and she gets into the car with a woman who has a kid, and they get a flat, and so they get out to use a payphone, and a dog comes and kills the child.
Holy shit.
And like the dog is shown, literally first 2 minutes of the movie, the dog is shown like ragdolling a baby.
Jesus.
And I was like, yeah, and then it's like produced by Roger Corman. I'm like,
that tracks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hell yeah.
Also, there is a scene towards the end of the movie where a bunch of people get in a fight, like a brawl at a funeral. Good. I enjoyed it. Yeah. When I turned it on, I was like, I kind of expected it to be like a toss away.
The Wayne's World.
Yeah, just a Saturday afternoon. I'm like doing the crossword or whatever on my phone. And then I was like, actually, I'm going to watch this and enjoy it. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about under this category is to ask you if there's, I know you were just talking about downsizing and having a garage sale and such before we got on the mic, but we are in the time in the year where there are lots of DVD, Blu-ray, 4K restoration, blah, 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 sales. And I'm wondering if you have explored any of them.
Not only have I not, I didn't even know most of these were happening. I like going out of town a bunch coming up, and also have deleted a lot of social media from my phone to try to not be such a slouch during some time off that I have, that I am unplugged on everything, and so I've missed any sort of sales, but I'm hoping that you did.
The only social media that I use is Reddit, but
yeah.
So it pops up at this point. It pops up there, but yes, I did. I purchased a couple of things. Barnes & Noble had a 50% off Radiance Films, which is a distributor that does a lot of foreign language movies. That's cool. I got two, but I got one in particular that I'm really looking forward to watching because I think it might be a good candidate for a future Red Rose Film Club viewing. It's called Weak Spot. It's from 1975. It's directed by what's his name? A German guy named Peter Fleischmann. And it is about a guy who is like falsely incarcerated by an authoritarian state, but cool. I believe is supposed to be like a satire.
Okay.
So looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
And then tomorrow Criterion starts. I don't think I'm going to buy anything from that because there's not something that's like pounding desire. I did buy. Well, I should have waited, but I immediately bought the Born in Flames when they announced it's coming out in September. I pre-ordered it. And looking forward to that, but I did not wait for the sale because I was just like, I got the email that they are releasing Born in Flames. But I did order some stuff from Kino Lorber, has their sale right now. And the thing I'm most excited about from that is I finally now will own a copy of Hardcore.
Hell yeah.
Which I very, very much looking forward to. Not watching it in like the shittiest possible version on like Internet Archive or whatever.
Yeah. But okay, well now maybe I need to spend some money on this. No, I'm going to go buck wild in Birmingham next month because I'm going to WWE. Nice. I think I may have told you. I don't remember if I mentioned on pod or not, but which is going to be 2 days after Goldberg's retirement match. Like he's coming back out of nowhere to do a retirement match. So maybe I'll get to see him on mic or something if they trot him out 2 days later.
Yeah, let's just hope he doesn't drop anybody in his
on their head 19 times in a row.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about current events now. I didn't have a whole lot that I wanted to talk about, but then something happened today that I do want to discuss a little bit. And based on the heaviness of what you might discuss, I should probably go first. But Hal, do you know who Liver King is?
Yes.
For those
that mugshot, I'm gonna let you go off, but I just have to say, horrifying mugshot.
There's like
looks like he's from an exploitation film in the mid 70s of a man that was living in a swamp and is like trying to kill a family that's living in a cabin.
Yeah, he's like Rob Zombie is writing a whole new movie based on that mugshot.
Yes,
yeah,
literally.
For the uninitiated, Liver King. He has a liver queen and he has liver boys as well. He's a liver family.
No.
Is this guy? He calls her the liver queen, liver boys.
It sounds like Blood Boys. It sounds like Brian Johnson's Blood Boys. You know, like he's harvesting their livers.
Wait, he's Brian Johnson. His real name is Brian.
Liver
Johnson.
King's name is Brian Johnson.
His real name is Brian Johnson.
Oh, you know that just chaps the other Brian Johnson's ass.
Okay, maybe I don't know who the other Brian Johnson is.
Brian Johnson, the vampire man. And that's not an informative way to
Brian
refer
Johnson,
to him.
the vampire
He's
man?
the guy who's like trying to age max. He's trying to like make himself immortal.
Oh, this is a real person?
Yes.
All right. This guy's going into my weirdo list of
people
that I watch. I don't know how I don't know about this guy.
Introducing this man to you.
Well, because every time I look him up, I get Liver King.
He is one of my fascinations. This man genuinely looks older now than he did when he started doing all this insanity. He's like a venture capitalist who I think like his backstory is essentially that he is like a venture capitalist whose I think wife left him or something happened with his long-term relationship, and he dove headlong into financing research on essentially trying to make himself functionally immortal. And he does intense data, like self-collection of data on every level. He's got a website called The Blueprint where you can look at like everything that he eats, all of the medication that he takes.
How are these two guys not already like doing something together?
Because they're diametrically opposed to each other is what I'm saying. Like he is leveraging all science. Like he doesn't take a shit without recording.
His shit's real though? Or none of this is kooky?
No, I'm
is it all kooky?
By the question.
Wait, let me rephrase. Do you think that some of the things that he's doing are like useful? Because the other one's not at all.
Certainly some of them, but he is doing it in that like the Silicon Valley optimization drive. He is taking that into maximum overdrive, like to the most extreme. And the reason why I was referring to his son as a blood boy is because one of the things that he has done is literally take blood from his 18-year-old son and put it in himself. And also do it to his dad. Like to the grandfather.
That's awesome. That's what I'm doing.
You gotta look it up. I will say the one thing that I will support him on is that in looking through the book, which like I said, he is one of my fascinations, because it's giving Clive Barker. Like it's just something really demonic is going to happen with this man. But he does take a little bit of lithium every day.
Okay.
And hey, I endorse everyone doing that.
Yeah, we all have our vices. But Liver King is also a Brian Johnson. I think these guys. I don't recognize why Brian. But no, I do think they're similar because I think they have like similar goals to like figure out a way to live forever, but live like with all the like smart guy Silicon Valley stuff. Like take that, and Liver King's a guy that listened to like an alpha male podcast and was like, I'm going to take my shirt off and strangle a deer and eat its balls.
They're guided by like similar, like at the core, similar ideological thrusts.
Yeah.
But
their methods
their methods are extreme, but are guided by different understandings of like what a core or what a prime masculinity should be, right? Like, whereas Brian Johnson with Y is like, you have to leverage science and that we can overcome the fundamental qualities of our humanity
and Brian
by
with
applying
an I,
scientific method to it, basically. And Brian with an I is like,
you have to
return with a bee to the forest.
Yeah, you have to adhere to the 9 core ancestral tenets. Which one of them some of them are really funny because some of them are like just like obviously like eat healthy, like or eat pure, like work out, and then some of them are just like. This isn't one, but like some of them are just like strength, like just like virtue words.
You know
and
what?
shit.
One of them isn't wear sunscreen. You know what? One of them isn't drink water, just based on his skin quality. Okay.
If for those that might not know who the Liver King is,
he looks like a 75-year-old woman on Fort Myers Beach.
But he's in his early 40s, I think. He looks terrible. Like his skin is just alligatored up. He's 47. He got a level of fame by he's like, you look at him and you go, this is a steroid has become sentient. Like this is what he looks like. There's no way that the person whose body looks like this is, and he's 47, is not doing steroids, but he made his whole claim to fame by saying he was 100% natural and he just adhered to like the core ancestral tenets and like eating like liver and balls and shit, like raw. Well, his world kind of fell apart when it was revealed that he did take steroids, which everyone knew. And the reason like he kind of lost legitimacy in the podcast world is because a few years ago, Joe Rogan was like, fuck that guy. That guy's an idiot. So like he kind of like
you can't have that. If that's the world you're moving in.
Right.
That's like God personally sending a lightning bolt down on your ass. Okay?
So what has he been doing in the meantime? Seemingly going down a wormhole of guided by some, for sure, mental illness.
You know what? They should make the movie Friendship, but about
oh my God, you're a genius.
Liver King.
You're a genius.
Because I would motherfucking watch the shit.
Well, they almost did. He almost made a guerrilla version of it because he got arrested yesterday after making a series of bizarre like TikTok videos, all like threatening to kill Joe Rogan and like showing him a pistol that he was carrying in a box. He drove to Austin, Texas and was like arrested on the streets after sending a thing that was like, I'm going to kill your ass. So he's been officially arrested for issuing terroristic threats to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful American story.
If you make a claim of violence that is specific, includes method, and a location, and then take action to move towards that plan. Yeah.
Have you seen any of the videos?
No.
Because this is how stupid he is. He, at his level, knows that. You cannot make direct threats. And at the beginning of him making these videos, doing all right. He's like, Joe Rogan, I'm going to come to Austin. because we're men, we're going to meet and we're going to fight. And then at one point he's like,
you're cutting a promo, by the way. It's like
I know.
You're cutting a promo.
And at one point he has a box, like a wooden box that has Joe Rogan's sticker on it. And he's like, and I got a gift for you. And it's in this box. And everyone's clearly like, but dude, Al, you're tiptoeing on it. Like, we know what you're doing, something. And then in like 2 videos later, he's like, let me open my box. Uh-oh. And he opens it and there's clearly a fucking gun in the box. So then every other video, he's like, I'm going to bring my box to Joe Rogan. It's like, yeah, buddy, you are saying you're going to kill this man.
So, yeah, you know,
he's so dumb.
Another example of how the police just protect the bourgeoisie.
Honestly, yeah.
Because if a man starts threatening a box with a gun in it to Joe Rogan online in vague terms, that's a direct threat. But, you know, women seeking protection orders against domestic abusers in our municipality would be like, well, but did he show up at your house and say at 10:09 a.m. I'm gonna kill you? If not,
then
doesn't count.
But you know what? We got to protect them. The Comedy Mothership, the last bastion of free speech and democracy.
Comedy Mothership.
This is so
I wish
weird.
you would fucking take him away.
Have you seen?
Is that a direct threat? No.
This is a very loose epi here today, but I have to say it's very funny. Have you seen Tim Heidecker's parody of a Comedy Mothership and Kill Tony shit?
I have not.
Oh my god, it's funny.
Oh wait, hold on. Are you saying Comedy Mothership is a thing? That's not a riff that you were.
No, Comedy Mothership is the club that Joe Rogan opened in Austin. That he specifically was like, LA's too woke.
Just a riff that you were making.
Oh, how? I have to tell you.
I did know that he opened a club. I did not know that was the name of it. And honestly, it's disrespectful to fucking George Clinton and Parliament.
Yeah.
And Funkadelic, all of the above.
It has become the lamest thing because like the comedians that like hang on to him, he like works the gate there. Like he has like say over who gets in, and like
is that where Kill Tony does his dumb shit?
Like Kill Tony is now like he tours with it, but he's like in residence at
all those TikTok videos where at least as of 1 year ago when I still had TikTok, of them at their tables sitting there.
Oh, you gotta love Tony, man. He'll roast anybody. I fucking hate Tony Hinchcliffe so much.
He tried roasting himself.
But all that to say, Tim Heidecker, if you've seen him do his parody of Bill Maher or his parody of Joe Rogan, he did one of the Comedy Mothership and Kill Tony, and it's really funny. But Hal, for a slightly more serious current event, listen, it was either.
Sorry, I don't even know what the lead is or what the transition is here.
Here, let me get a little more somber. Oh, it was a little too somber.
I don't know if that was somber. It was just soft.
Yeah, I mean, like some fucked up shit happened, and obviously we want to talk about it a little bit. So Hal, I'll let you talk about the fucked up shit now that we've talked about the silly shit.
Great throw over, because a man who goes by Liver King threatening to kill Joe Rogan, not serious business at all. So let's talk about Iran.
hey, agree to disagree.
Should come. Sorry, this is tough tonally, but this should come as no shock. But this is a firmly anti-war, anti-imperial fuckery podcast. Abundant historical evidence predicts that a bombing campaign done under the guise of supporting an ally or aborting weapon development or both is the power elite's gateway drug into regime change, funding insurgents who dialectically whip back around to shoot us square in the face, the killing of civilians and sundry war crimes, etc., etc., etc. Regardless of what Trump declaims on Truth Social about the goal not being regime change, the roadmap is worn. It's tattered. It's folded over at the edges, and we see the dried ink from Korea, Vietnam, Iraq. We know from mainstream reporting about U.S. intelligence assessments that Iran does not currently have the capacity to produce a nuclear bomb. And that was true prior to the bombings, and is likely years away from being able to do so. Which, by the way, like that's been true when I was in Model United Nations, fucking 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago. That was also the case then. Okay, they ain't done shit. Also, I'll say like this argument involves accepting the premise that if they did have it, or if they were about to have it, that it would warrant a bombing campaign, which I also rebuke. But hey, let's meet them where they lie. So we have to ask, who is being served by this action? Trump is a chump.
Trump, TM, copyright.
When I wrote that yesterday, I was not thinking about it rhyming. I'm a dumbass. Anyway, you know who else is a dumbass? Fucking Trump, who is in no way prepared to navigate the resulting fallout as the last few days have demonstrated. First, bombing people while engaged in diplomacy undermines credibility for other diplomatic processes. Cough, cough, Putin. Right? Like, it's pretty hard to be like, hey, Russia, you should trust us in these diplomatic proceedings while actively being engaged in diplomatic proceedings with Iran and then bombing them immediately. Second, the U.S.'s relationship to Israel is a lot more complex than thawing neocons who are like crawling out of the crevices in the ground like the monster from the motherfucking thing from 2001. 2001, the year, not the movie. And evangelical freaks like to admit. It's not a one-to-one partnership. Though each country has its respective leverage, of course, our geopolitical interests and internal dynamics do not always align. The history of this delicate arrangement and its precarious balance are definitely lost on Trump. And his queenie-ass quips, though they do make me laugh, about Israel and Iran, where he said, they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
He's always hilarious when he has to yell over a helicopter. That's like my favorite quote.
I'm just hearing this. Like when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died.
Yeah.
What? I'm just hearing this. Though it was quite like the funny moment of candor, it's no match against the mounting forces of the coalescing consent of the rest of the bourgeois apparatus. Democrats will gleefully join in. Senator Chuck, a.k.a. Mr. I passed out in the gym yesterday and should absolutely be dictating global policy still, Schumer, has insisted that the U.S. remain tough on Iran and forgo any deals with Iran without Israel's approval. Representative Hakeem Jeffries continued the trend for Democratic leadership in the House and made sure to emphasize the most important commitment for the U.S. here is Israel's security. Hey, at least while they violently meddle, they admit that they long ago dropped any illusion of high-minded ideals such as the defense of democracy. Do we think that some handler preemptively made a dummy signal chat for Hegseth to spoil this bombing without risking an external leak? Or did he just save his sloppiness for drunk dialing BB as it happened? More tragedy, more farce, more profits crammed in the overflowing pockets of manufacturers and contractors whose ceaseless hunger for revenue demands another forever war. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. I've been real unplugged on all of it since it happened because depressing and having a hard time. I have a hard time with depressing news and going down rabbit holes sometimes because it's...
Well, I'm here to tell you it's fuck shit.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't under the impression it was going well. It's like, I've been out of the loop. It was a good one. We did a good bombing finally.
The first good bombing in history. Yeah.
No, that was at Kill Tony. Yeah. Boom. Bombing for a different way.
Nice.
Thank
nice
you.
Callback.
Okay. Are we ready to talk about Sinners?
Let's do it.
Hell yeah. We wanted to do this movie. I believe we both loved it. And we wanted to talk about something new and recent, and specifically wanted to talk about Ryan Coogler in general, his filmography. And I think this is probably the first of his movies that might, well, actually, FRUITVALE Station. But that might fit the kind of theme of our podcast. But we are going to talk about Sinners, the most recent project from director Ryan Coogler. Sinners is just his fifth full-length feature film and his fifth collaboration with Michael B. Jordan. Before we begin discussing the film, we want to take a look at Coogler's short career, which has propelled him to the top tier of young, sought-after directors. Hal and I have both mentioned on the pod that we're big fans of the Blank Check podcast hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. Their podcast kind of explores filmographies of directors, typically those working within the stuffy confines of the studio system, whose films have been so successful that studios have handed them a blank check to create their passion project. Big studios aren't exactly dying to fork over large sums of cash to projects that might be too weird, too out there, or too alienating to large markets. But if a director proves capable of turning profit on more standard, safer studio fare, they can leverage that success into making their passion projects, which are often more ambitious, both thematically and visually. Examples would be James Cameron, not Jams Cameron, making Avatar following the success of...
Uncut Jams.
Yeah. Of Titanic and Terminator 2, or Warner Brothers letting Christopher Nolan make Inception, which, you know, some good, some bad, but definitely out there. But he's only able to make it on the heels of the massively successful Batman trilogy. It's the old adage, one for you, then one for me. Except in the US in 2025, more often it's okay, 3 or 4 or 5 for you, and then I get my one. And there is perhaps no better example of a blank check movie in 2025 than Sinners, a period drama about the Jim Crow South and the origins and influence of blues music that just so happens to also be a vampire flick. So let's look at Coogler's career leading up to the film. His first feature was Fruitvale Station, a true story that traces the last 24 hours in the life of Oscar Grant III, Michael B. Jordan, a young black father murdered by the Oakland police. Released in 2013, just 4 years after Oscar's death and in between the high-profile murders of Trayvon Martin in 2012 and Michael Brown in 2014, Fruitvale Station was a simple, moving, intimate portrait of yet another black man's life cut short by police violence. On a budget of less than $1 million, Fruitvale Station made $17 million at the box office, making it a big success for the first time then 26-year-old director. Turn on investment like that, the studio saw their chance to snap up a fresh young filmmaker. Now, this is where a lot of promising young directors can see their careers fall apart. Big studios love grabbing capable directors who may not have a lot of influence, and the reason's obvious. Talent is there, people are talking about them, but they're young, and you don't have to pay them that much. So they'll make your giant tent poles for pennies. The model proved successful to the studios, but oftentimes detrimental to the careers of promising directors whose cinematic style has to be watered down to fit the studio's expectations. Quintessential example would be Josh Trank, who made a lot of fans with his debut feature, the 2012 film Chronicle, which I never saw, but it made a lot of hay, which also starred Michael B. Jordan, coincidentally, only to be snatched up by 20th Century Fox and given the reins to create one of the sloppiest, ugliest superhero movies in recent memory, which was 2015's Fantastic Four. And his career never really recovered, as the only other movie he made since was the tepid 2020 biopic Capone, which I did see, and it is a stinker. A more recent example would be Chloe Zhao, whose 3-film career of quiet character studies culminated in Zhao winning 2 Oscars for Nomadland in 2021, only to be grabbed by Marvel to make The Eternals, which became Marvel's worst-rated film on Rotten Tomatoes.
And I also want to just add here that this is one of the reasons we talked about her earlier, that I'm really, really excited that Nia DaCosta is doing The Bone Temple, is because she was on this trajectory of making really interesting movies, even though it's, an adaptation or a remake, and then made The Marvels, which is like one of the worst Marvel films. So I'm really excited for her to find a way back, a step out of this loop. Stuff. Yes.
So all this to say that when MGM Studios grabbed Ryan Coogler to direct Creed in 2015, he was in a similar position of peril, but Coogler managed to avoid the pitfalls that tanked other young careers and instead revived the dormant Rocky franchise without compromising his style to the demands of the studio. And in 2018, any doubts about Coogler's ability to work within the studio system and handle massive IP was put to rest with the release of Black Panther, wherein Coogler was able to follow traditional MCU mold of a superhero origin story without compromising his style or thematic elements. The result was the obviously massively successful movie that was able to explore ideas of Afrofuturism and the lasting impacts of colonization in Africa. And naturally, Coogler's 4th film would be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, another big success. Following the success of Creed and the Black Panther movies, Coogler found himself with a new set of powers in Hollywood. That would be leverage. With his previous 3 films, he made a combined total of $2 billion at the box office. Fucking crazy. He made $2 billion on, how many? 3, 4 movies? Nuts. Which is a far sight from the already pretty modestly successful Fruitvale Station. But he was now a Hollywood commodity, not just a director for hire. And how do big studios keep talented directors with big receipts happy? Let them make whatever weird, wild shit they want. And for Coogler, that would be Sinners, a nasty vampire flick set in the Jim Crow South, starring Michael B. Jordan as twins. So, let's talk about Sinners. First off, I'm going to skip to this part because I like top. But how do you like Sinners, Hal?
I love this movie. I saw it twice in theaters. Also, my first viewing of it, let me say this. This movie is so good that it overpowered a very weird context in which I saw it the first time, which is that I saw it the night of the FSU shooting.
Oof. Yeah.
Because I was like, I need to go. Well, I mean, that was the intention. Is like, I want to go see a movie, but I was extremely hyper vigilant, which was not so bad in terms of what's happening in the movie. There were some jump scares and stuff, but just, made being in a packed theater not the most pleasant environment. And the woman sitting immediately next to me was extremely reactive, literally screamed, like full volume screamed every single time. There's like those 2 or 3 jump scares at the very, very beginning. Full volume screamed. And then proceeded to react that way throughout the entire movie. So that is what was happening for me. And I still walked out of that theater being like, God damn, it was a really good movie. So I am particularly fond of it. And then the next week I went and saw it again.
Hell yeah.
How about you?
I liked it as well. I've also seen it twice, though not twice. Just one time in the theaters.
You're not A-list maxing, man.
But oh man, speaking of A-list maxing, boy, have we hit a lull for my stuff I want to see that I haven't seen yet.
Classic.
Oof, boy.
Classic Midsummer problem.
Yeah. But no, I loved it. Like it hit on like a few like themes of mine that like I'm just very interested in. Culture and depicted like South and deal with that, but also like the evolution of blues music. Not the evolution, the origins of blues music, how it is literally used to feed upon by Elvis and white folks of the time who kind of just took that style and sanitized it some. And this is kind of what the 2 major themes of the movie are, and I love that. And this might be the first time in a while I'm going to successfully get my dad to watch a genre horror movie that I like, because usually once he knows some sort of monster in it, he's a bit dismissive. But once I told him that it's also about the blues, I'm listening.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I would follow Michael B. Jordan to the end of the earth. I will see anything that he's in, and he is incredibly talented and very charismatic and burns on the screen.
Yeah, really
here.
good.
Also, it's a fucking vampire movie, so like I'm just gonna be in. That's my favorite, subgenre of horror.
Can I ask before we get into some of the stuff I want to talk about? But is there a movie that this like immediately the structure just was like, oh,
I mean,
very similar.
I mean, From Dusk Till Dawn is
that was like
is
one.
very
It's like,
very much
just in that
what it's evoking.
Kind of a single setting, like a strip club From Dusk Till Dawn, but a music like joint or whatever, and the fact that there are vampires in it is not revealed for about like halfway through the movie. Hinted at in Sinners, I think, more than From Dusk Till Dawn, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to the strength of Coogler's filmmaking that like there are very clear reference points, and yet it is still totally singular and also broad appeal. Like he's straddling a lot of lines here successfully.
That kind of shit. That like, oh, so good. Like somebody, I love this. So let's dive in a little bit, talk about some of the themes, and then talk about do a walkthrough of the plot and all the things about it. So I do want to talk a bit about Jim Crow South and the era in which this movie takes place. It is obviously time end of the Civil War in 1865 and the passing of the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s, loosely, and at risk of way oversimplifying Jim Crow South and its multitude of horrors, I'd like to boil down the essence as the period after slavery when black folks trying to find their way in America with newfound freedom and white America's efforts to find new and horrifying ways to legally subjugate black people, like segregated public facilities, lynchings without consequence, and the disenfranchisement of black voices in politics. But that oversimplification is the heart of Coogler's film, which is ultimately a story of the creation and perseverance of black life, reflected through art, specifically blues music. That is under constant threat or appropriation or elimination from the pro-slavery crowd defeated in the Civil War, but undeterred in their bigotry and desire to dominate and control the lives of black Americans. In Sinners, set in 1932, Michael B. Jordan plays twins, Smoke and Stack. I literally had to write smoke equal blue, stack equal red when I was doing it because I could not still. He plays Smoke and Stack, who escaped a life of sharecropping in their Mississippi hometown to hustle and make their fortune in Chicago, only return home after discovering that American racism wasn't necessarily exclusive to the South, and that, as Smoke or Stack put it, Chicago ain't shit but Mississippi with tall buildings instead of plantations. With the help of their younger cousin, Miles Canton, a Mississippi sharecropper, Smoke and Stack endeavored to open a blues club in their hometown, only to meet resistance from local white folks with a more sinister agenda. And again, a big part of that is blues music. There are only a few positive things in this world that are truly American to me: baseball, professional wrestling, and the blues. And the origins of blues music is mercurial and often apocryphal. Its roots can be traced directly back to slavery and the creative expression of African slaves forced into slavery. The musicality of the blues shares DNA with African songs brought to America from the transatlantic slave trade. Slaves used music, hymns, spirituals, and stories both to maintain a sense of dignity and oftentimes as practical tools for discreet communication on slave plantations. When slavery ended and Jim Crow forced Black folks to live as second-class citizens, the lyrical content of African-American music frequently mirrored the injustices and strife of the Black experience. By the 1920s and 30s, blues music had kind of codified from a collection of musical traits into a more definable genre. And within the Mississippi Delta being kind of the most prominent explosion of this music, with artists like Robert Johnson and John Lee Hooker and Muddy Waters all coming from this era. Coogler's incorporation of blues music turned sinners into a cogent metaphor for the history of the music and how it transformed over the years, beginning as an expression of Black pain in America, only to later be co-opted by white artists to sanitize it. That is to say, remove any soul or emotion, like we see the vampires do in the film when they attempt to play the old blues song "Pick Poor Robin." Is that the name of it? That is a great laugh. That was one of the better laughs as well. Blues music was the ground floor in white folks appropriating Black culture in America during the Jim Crow era. Big Mama Thornton recorded an earth-shaking powerhouse song called Hound Dog, only for a hip-shaking white boy to take the tune and remove all seasoning. And unfortunately, the tradition continues, et cetera, et cetera. As J. Cole says, same thing Elvis did with rock and roll. Now we've got Eminem, Justin Timberlake, and Macklemore. But for Ryan Coogler, this isn't a movie about the blues, but a way to preserve the history of blues music, where the white appropriators are treated like leeches and not rock stars. So let's get into the plot.
Before you do that,
yes.
I wanted to make mention of something I was thinking about while reflecting on the movie. After having seen it a couple of times, is how much it reminds me of a painting done by Ernie Barnes in the mid 70s called The Sugar Shack, which I think kind of most famously is known as being featured on the cover of Marvin Gaye's I Want You album, and also in the end credits of the 1970s sitcom Good Times. That was based on a swing and jazz club in North Carolina called the Durham Armory that Ernie Barnes snuck into as a child. And just the kind of rhythm captured in the still acrylic painting, right? The painting's not moving. And even the setting of it, kind of the background, really is very similar to what Ryan Coogler is depicting in the shack that we see Smoke and Stack create. And then I saw that you put in here that there was an alternative movie posters that was like directly used that painting. Yeah. So it makes sense.
Like similar poses, yes. Like the kind of, really cool.
Makes sense. But I encourage folks to look up that painting, The Sugar Shack.
One thing that really struck me about this movie is that I feel like I'm often annoyed by actors playing twins in movies. That a lot of time they kind of don't have a lot of distinction, and this I feel is not that. They are two very similar brothers, but they find like very key ways to like distinguish them from each other, like how they deal with people, how they talk to people. Even like he has as the one that is more like the one that like shoots the dude in the ass. He's more like loose with the rules a bit, is like he has almost a different inflection.
One of them is one of the twins is much more like business minded, kind of wants to follow not rules in the grand sense of the law, but like kind of has an internal
he's like
set of like policies that
He's like
he
the guy
wants
from
to
The Wire.
follow.
The fuck. Idris Elba's character from The Wire, the guy that's like, he's following the rules, even though he's not wanting to follow.
Right. He's a businessman.
He's a businessman.
Yeah, he's a businessman.
The other one is more like it's referenced that they went to Chicago to try to work for Capone. The other one has more of the like Chicago gangster, like 30s attitude.
Right, a little bit more of kind of the wild, tantalizing kind of seeking a thrill, enjoying the ride, kind of. Yeah, I mean, Michael B. Jordan is an excellent actor. He's incredibly talented, and I really hope that he has an opportunity to play another role like Oscar Grant. And by that, I don't mean thematically like another man who was murdered by cops, but something that is like a pure drama that is more lived in. I mean, he crushes these roles and does a very good job of making them each distinct in flavor and having their own kind of mannerisms and embodying those different traits. But I'd love to see him in a pure drama.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Do you have a favorite twin movie?
Yeah, of course.
I knew it. I knew it.
Of course. It's Dead Ringers, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Jeremy Irons is brilliant in that movie. Yeah. Talk about making two. I mean, that is a crazy two roles because they are twins who play each other like internal to the narrative of the film. They pretend to be each other. So oftentimes, he's doing Face Off basically, right? Repeatedly. But yes, absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that is my favorite.
I was trying to think what my favorite were, and I was going like a list on like what twins in movies, and I realized like so many of these are like movies I like, sure, but I was kind of annoyed by the same actor playing twins. I'm thinking like
of it all.
The Archie Hammer and
Army Hammer?
Archie Hammer in the Social Network. Army Hammer in the Social Network. Yeah, he's fine in it, but twins. I was always just like distracted by it. But then I realized there's one that I really do like.
Well, can I just say about that? Is that he for me, like his performance in that movie works because the twins don't feel distinct. Like they just feel like two lugs who are, like they're almost and
they don't have to be distinct necessarily because they're like the foil.
Right. That they just kind of feel like two copies, like almost like enforcers. Like snotty, bratty enforcers who travel around in a pair.
I will concede that
I'm not saying it's great. I just mean the lack of distinct qualities between them doesn't necessarily bother me in that role specifically.
I will concede that maybe it's just my little peanut brain that's just like, look, there's two of them up there. How'd they do that? Which I'll get to in a second. But I do think that one of my favorite twin performances is Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood, which I don't even know if counts because they're never on screen together.
I'm with you. I love him. Yeah. He is one of my like since I was a teenager celebrity crushes. I love him.
Now can I tell you my embarrassing twin movie that I do still have a fondness for?
I mean, yes, please.
But I remember
it's
it
the
came
whole
out.
Conceit of the podcast.
It's a little what?
You telling me things.
I watched this movie so much when I was a little kid. I loved it so much. But specifically the fact that the actor played their own twin. I was like young. It was the early 90s. And I was like, this is the new world. We're in a new frontier of movie making. How do they do this? And that would be when Diedrich Bader played his own twin sister in the Beverly Hillbillies movie. I remember just being floored every time. Like, how did they do that?
I certainly have not seen that. I thought you were.
I can do the theme
when
song.
you started going down this path. I thought you were going to say like fucking Adam Sandler and Jack and Jill or some shit.
Well,
which honestly kind of adjacent, not totally different.
100%. Yeah. I think the Beverly Hillbillies, like, yeah, I'm certain there's jokes that have not aged well, but it does have a very sweet, pure heart, and I think I will go to bat for that movie. Don't hold me to that. It is genuinely terrible, but I don't think it is like no, it's not genuinely terrible. It's bad, but I don't feel it to be morally reprehensible.
That's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you can draw that line.
Well, there is shit like that you loved when you were a kid that you like watch now, and you're like, holy shit. Or maybe like being a young boy in like young male circles, like shit that I was like so jazzed for when I was 12 and 13. I don't know, like Boondock Saints and like war movies and shit. That now I'm like, what the hell? Whereas Beverly Hillbillies,
I have always had impeccable taste, so
because what I found interesting in Sinners is this is the first time that Ryan Coogler's done like a real genre mashup, and I love a genre mashup. Do you love a genre mashup? And how do you think he did as like? Obviously, we like the movie, but I want to hear your thoughts on his execution as a genre mashup.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can find the Venn diagram, right, the intersection of the Venn diagram, and pull out what lies in the mists, then you're going to be successful. Like, there's not wild tonal swings in this movie.
Yes.
Like, it is pretty even in terms of, I mean, it is suspenseful. Like, it draws you in, and there is tension. There's narrative tension, but you're not like hardy har har, and then like, oh, I'm terrified. Like, it, even if there's moments of love, levity, or humor, it's still kept within. Like, the fact that it's set in the Jim Crow South means that there is inherent terror,
right? Yeah.
Embedded in the setting at all times, right? And so even if there's like moments of levity, you are still in an environment. Like, the surrounding milieu is that of, this is a bad place where bad things happen, and where the characters that we are invested in, who are overwhelmingly Black people, and also we do have obviously a couple of Chinese characters as well, are under threat. Right. So I think that helps in the sense of maintaining a consistent tone throughout the movie. Yeah. So the characters can have moments of connection, love, sex, joy even, but we know where it's going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. The tone, like, the ones that suck are the ones that tone just doesn't match, and it's like they're not working in tandem, pulling half of this and half of that, which is a movie I talked about earlier this year that I didn't like, kind of for that reason, which was Heart Eyes, the like rom-com slasher that like could have been really, really cool, but was exactly that. Like, the tonal swings were wild because it was a romance for a scene and then horror for a scene, and they never quite worked together. And I will say what I love about Sinners being like a genre movie is that it doesn't have to explain the fucking rules for vampires. Like,
I agree. It's one of my favorite parts about the movie is that I hate over, as I've said 1,000 times on this podcast, I hate an over explanation. And Coogler is a master filmmaker, does not hesitate, does not have someone give fucking 10 minutes of exposition about what's going on. Just goes, you're going to fucking get it. Jump in.
Yeah, you'll get it. Hang on. Yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, so the movie's kind of told in like kind of three big acts: their return to their hometown, opening the club, and kind of what plays out at the end of the night. The first 15 minutes is great. We get them back to home and kind of reconnecting all these people that once a part of their lives, including Sammy, who will kind of be co-protagonist with them, who's their like young cousin, who's a sharecropper and son of a preacher, who has this passion for music. Delta Slim, played by Delroy Lindo, who is great and awesome.
I love him.
He's great. He's so funny.
I'm still so mad that he was not nominated for The Five Bloods.
Yeah. But he's like this old drunk that's just kind of kicking around town still, and used to be like an old blues guy. Then there's Mary, who's Hailee Steinfeld, that I did not realize until maybe even after I saw that was Hailee Steinfeld.
She looks. Everyone does an excellent job in this movie. Yeah. She looks insanely hot. Like, it's outrageous how hot she looks in this movie. It's crazy.
And then the rest of the kind of side characters are filled out by Annie, who is Smoke's ex, and their feelings are kind of complicated. They share in...
Were you a Lovecraft Country person? Did you watch Lovecraft Country?
Oh, yeah, that's her.
Yes.
Yeah.
It made me really happy.
Yeah, she's really good too. She has like a really strong emotional beat. She's not in it that much, I feel like, but she makes the most out of those scenes. And then Cornbread, who's the like security guy, who's a comic relief, and then has like a really fucking tense scene near the end that I like quite a bit.
Yeah, her name is Wunmi Masaku.
Oh, thank you. And Cornbread is Omar Benson, who I know as the guy who's Eminem's friend, but not the one that shot himself in the foot in 8 Mile.
He's a lot of like character actor.
Yeah, he's that guy. Yeah. But yeah, and we also see some like those hints of some vampire action, which the first hint that we see is when the vampire knocks on the white family or husband and wife, knocks on their door and asks to become let in because he says he's being chased by some Choctaw. And we see that they're immediately like, oh, for God's sakes, get in.
Right. Where it's like white people, racism is such a powerful force that any aspect of self-protection is like thrown out the window. They're like, oh, people that aren't white are chasing you? For sure, get in here, mister, with sharp teeth.
Yeah, and then we see minutes later
what long teeth you have?
A Choctaw native like come to the door and kind of
trying to help them.
And kind of saying the same thing that the other guy said, but about him. And they're just immediately like, get out of here. What are you doing? And it turns out they're right. They're vampires. And also, this will come up, that the very subtle, like the clan robes on the couch when he comes in.
Yeah, subtle clan robes.
Well, the subtle shot of like him peeking in.
I'm just like, those words have never been said in combination with each other.
Not that like it was anything chic about the outfit, but that the subtle shot of them like
it's like in the background. Yes,
because it will come back into play later.
That's again a good filmmaker who's not like, hey, my pappy is the Grand Wizard. Like it's just there, and we're adults who can understand what's going on.
Oh yeah, because the guy that there's like a bunch of really good lines right there at the beginning, but the guy who sells them the juke joint is kind of like a classic like a white, clearly racist, but is not going to show his cards yet. But just kind of like say snipey things at him, and they have like some great changes there at the beginning. But after we like spend some time in the city, we meet some of the characters. We end up at.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really love this first act because one of my favorite kinds of movies is like a one night hang out, like make a party happen, make an event happen, and it really injects some like vitality in the movie where there's like, obviously, as you described, we know that there's a vampire lurking or something approximating a vampire lurking. But we get to like really like the characters and see them interact with each other, like see our protagonists' affection for each other and how they relate to each other, and really gets us like invested in what is coming next. And
those connections aren't like corny either. There's like a worse version of this movie where it's like, oh, the ex, the drunk, the this, the that, but they're all more complex than that too, which like immediately makes them more attached. So when like shit goes down, but yeah, so they get to the club, they have their first night, their grand opening, and the part where we get to my favorite scene of the year, which I think is fucking great, which is so like Sammy has got this not new to others guitar player and a singer,
has a beautiful voice, and he is that. Miles Canton is an R&B singer.
Okay. His voice is so odd, but like...
Yeah, it's very, very deep and like velvety.
Yeah.
I think he toured with SZA, I want to say. Like, I know he has, like, he is a musician in real life. Like, you can't feign what he's doing. But yeah, so he's bringing, like, those are his actual talents that he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, yeah, his voice is great. And then he launches into this song. And when he does, it does this one shot through the club where like we get this kind of magical realism where now the club is the patrons, but we see that the patrons are very obviously meant to evoke different genres of music throughout time, past and present. So like we see what I think are stand-ins for Parliament or Prince and Run DMC and LL Cool J and like a more modern female rapper, which kind of struck me as like Megan Thee Stallion, but then like also like African tribal music and just all together while he's playing the song. Floaty.
There's also like traditional Chinese dance.
Yep. Yeah. Just really, oh God, it's really good. There's three. I mean, the whole movie's great, but there are three like sequences and shots that are just like breathtaking.
Well, and something I think in addition to obviously with it's communicating about the resonance across time of music and the community origins of these various forms of music. I think there's also something being said about the freedom that is possible within music, right? That like you're not bound to any particular time and place, that people can commune with each other when they're doing so on even footing, which is an important contrast to what we see when the vampires come up. Right. So like there are people of different cultures and experiences interacting with each other in this space and having an authentic connection that is occurring there. So the issue is not like a commingling of tradition and experience and culture. It's that people are genuinely, being present with each other in that space, and like the power of that to be able to transcend like human form.
Yeah. And then that's where like the kind of central theme of the vampires as like cultural appropriators kind of really kicks into high gear, because it's that song that I guess metaphorically but also literally the roof is like on fire of the place, and that is what attracts the vampires to them. And later in the movie at the end he literally tells him he's going to kill him because I want your stories, I want your songs. So it's like the music that he hears that's like this transcendental through time and place is what brings the like leeches to them. And that's where they sing they answer the door to the three of them at this point. Oh yeah, because it's like they turn into like Mumford and Sons after they convert the clanspeople. So it's like three of them with like a guitar and a jug singing what is an old blues song, but the way they sing it is clearly meant to be very funny because it's very like banjo-y and not.
It's also like almost like vaudevillian because they're like they're doing like a coordinated dance to it.
But then they sing it later when like more nefarious shit has happened and there's an obvious tone to this. Like
the song is about eating someone.
Oh,
pick poor, clean. I mean, it's about stealing. I think it's about stealing shit from somebody, but obviously the honestly most obvious textual interpretation is eating the meat off of someone's bones.
And this is how dumb I am. Is like clearly now that I'm looking at that, but like when I heard it, I was like, oh, like they're hunters because they're like cleaning a rabbit or a bird. But that is what you're saying. I just didn't make the connection at all. All right,
layers.
Layers. And then we see that Mary, who the Hailee Steinfeld character, is going to go talk to them and is very quickly turned. And a great like little like she turns to go back, and when you see him like
that's another place where the woman next to me full volume screamed
when he went up. I might have too, because that was the first time. That's like one of the first times you see like a vampire power in the movie, and it's kind of out of nowhere.
It's definitely startling. I don't know that it's full volume scream. As someone that can be
if it was
pretty
her first,
verbal
I'd give
in a
it to
jump
her.
scare.
If it was her first one, I'd give it to her. But since she's already
it's like
been
brace
doing
yourself, okay? It's happened more than once.
And then another great song sequence. I felt like I was like, I'm gonna go on about how much I love this first one, and I bet we're gonna get to the second one, and Hal is gonna love this one.
Yes, I loved the song and the performance of it. The rhythm that is just like built into like the camera work here is really like sexy and like titillating in a way that is like very compelling. Like I was all in. I mean, I was all in from basically minute 3, but
and the song is really good.
Yeah,
called Pale Pale Moon. Okay. Which I knew I saw was
producer Chantel is saying Brittany Howard of obviously she makes music by herself, but of Alabama Shakes fame.
And
wrote it.
And the actress who sings it in the song is also, I think, the other co-writer / performer of it. And yeah, what Hal is referencing in that, like the editing in that sequence is really good because everything is like clearly coming to a head because the shit's about to go down.
Right, and everyone is like moving together. Like it's kind of like a mass is forming, and you can really feel the sense of like us versus them, but where there's almost not a full awareness that line has totally formed. And there's just kind of this like fantasy that has engulfed all the people inside, that almost feels like protective.
Yeah. Which is then like,
but is not
ripped apart so while that sequence is happening, Mary has seduced Stack, and they're having sex in the back room, which is like the culmination of the like musical number and this kind of fantasy.
There was a lot more sex in this movie than I thought there was going to be when I got in, and I was like, hell yeah.
But except for this sex turns a little nasty as she is killing Stack by biting him and turning him into a vampire, and that is where like there wasn't, but that is the record scratch moment of the movie where like there's such like a stark shift in how the character's night has gone.
Right. It's only 50% of Michael B. Jordan on screen, but still pretty crazy that 50% of Michael B. Jordan, right, our star, is dying.
Yeah. Which I know I had a similar thing, and I was like, holy shit, they killed him. And I was like, well, I guess there is another one.
That's kind of the whole thing about vampires.
Yeah. And spoiler, he'll come back. He gets his little encore. And then we get the like last act of the movie, which is kind of the siege on the club, where the vampires are clearly more in number than anyone realized. And now there's that great shot of the ones that like throughout the night, like various characters have been kind of picked off or disappeared. And there's those shots of them like returning, but now in vampire circle the building, which is really cool. Yeah, go ahead.
And I love that Coogler is presenting his take on a vampire, but there are some key parts of mythology that he retains, such as needing an invite to get inside. Which is the best.
It's my favorite.
It's, essential. Like, what is happening here does not work without it. But there's also kind of the double play, right, of when we're talking about this as a metaphor for appropriation, right? Like this idea of taking without being invited versus like a setting in which like you have to be requested to enter into. I think like it's a fun again, interplay between like vampire mythology and the overarching message.
And it creates like some great scenes, specifically the one with Cornbread, where he like disappears for a while, and that's when all the shit goes back down, and then he comes back and is like seemingly like, what I miss? He doesn't know. And then he goes like, all right, y'all go ahead and let me come in. And they're all slowly realizing like, well, you've been walking through the building the entire night, and all of a sudden you need us to tell you to come in. And there's that, I love that, like back and forth between them.
Well, and I think that like the invite thing is a very interesting or kind of emblematic example of the way that Coogler is able to kind of maintain a consistent tone but play with humor and horror, because when Cornbread is doing it, there's some humor in it, right? Like he's kind of needling at them, like trying to get them to come in. But when I can't remember the character's name, but the grocer, when he leaves and is obviously turned and then has come back and is trying to convince his wife to let him in, that is like pure tragedy, because like their daughter is on the line, right? There are a lot of stakes there. She is very tormented by not letting him in. But it's the same thing is happening, and they're occurring within scenes of each other. You know, it happens in a very short time, but the overall tone of what's happening in the movie allows both of those things to coexist without making it feel like you're experiencing whiplash.
Yeah. Also, I love that when like it is revealed and they all know that they're vampires, the song that they keep singing kind of changes. First, they stop singing "Pick Poor Cotton Clean," and it's like a traditional Irish like folk song that's kind of like sung sweetly at one point, and then another great music sequence. But when they're like having that goddamn vampire like jig seance where they're like all singing it in a like more menacing way and spinning in circles,
right?
And
it's like haunting but kind of entrancing at the same time.
And it's building into like a crescendo. Man, that's great too. And then just like then you get like the great action sequences and like the little moments. Ryan Coogler's just really good at all of this. Like the little moments of like character stuff that like Annie knew to throw the garlic, the jar of garlic on
water.
them. And then we get that great tense sequence, the Thing kind of spin where like the Thing where they test their blood to see which one's changed. But in this one, who can eat the garlic?
Eats some garlic.
Yeah, and there's the fake out of the one.
Yeah, and Perline's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Also, we forgot to mention, but Delroy Lindo has shat his pants at some point at this point in the movie, which I do like keeping track of when characters shit or talk about shitting in their pants. If you don't remember, the Mel Gibson directed Flight Risk, 3 different characters talk about it.
I don't recall that from the movie, but I recall you talking about it. So.
I recall it from the movie. They love talking about it. And then like kind of after we lose Stack, there's like 2 big emotional like cores of the movie, which is Smoke and now dealing with his brother but in vampire form, and like he becomes even more like kind of, he was already like smooth talking, but now there's like a really lasciviousness to the way he smooth talks his own brother that is really menacing, that I like. And then poor Annie, who tells him that if I get bit, you better kill me. And then she does, and he does. All told, we lose almost almost the entire club. Yeah,
quite a few characters.
And the following morning, we get.
I was just gonna say before we move on, I do think it's obviously a very intentional choice to make Jack O'Connell, I think it's Jack Connolly, but regardless,
British
the Irish vampires, the Irish vampire, who is also in 28 years later. O'Connell, okay, Jack O'Connell, who plays the main vampire, right? Who kind of is the impetus to action for the film. It's very intentional that he is Irish, right? In terms of like the racial formation of the United States and the racial regime developing in that era of the US in the early 20th century, where there is whiteness is hungry to maintain its dominance and can be fluid when it serves itself. And so I think there again is this very interesting dynamic of like, there is a way where we can have cross-cultural interaction that is not vampiric in nature, but when you wish to assimilate to continue to accrue power,
right,
then it is impossible for us to greet each other on equal terms as a community. And I think it's really lovely that is not that dynamic is lovely, but I think what Coogler's doing is really lovely of like weaving that in with again not having a history lesson, not having extended exposition of people explaining it to you, just as like trusting that people will figure it out. And if you don't know that and you can't figure it out, the movie is good enough and is dynamic enough that it doesn't really matter. You can just be along for the ride, even if you don't fully understand the nuances of what he's saying, which is really effective filmmaking.
Also, side note, Jack O'Connell is also Jimmy in 28 Years Later, who is mentioned throughout and then seen in that final odd tonal shift moment at the end. So I imagine we'll be seeing Jimmy more in those sequels, or Jack O'Connell in the sequels.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
If not, that would be a really, really crazy ending for the movie. They were just like 5 seconds of Power Rangers and then we're done.
Which is why I had a bit of a strange reaction, not knowing that there was a sequel planned. But it's actually not the vampires that kill Smoke eventually, because we learn that guy who sold them the property is the father of the clansman and wife that were turned into vampires. We realized this guy had a plan all along that he was going to find a way.
So his grandpappy is the Grand Wizard.
Yeah.
Though they didn't say it explicitly.
Yeah. He references straight up that he was going to find a way to kill them and take his money club back anyways. Yeah. So he tries to do that the next morning, and Smoke is waiting for him, and they have this really cool shootout scene where they shoot each other. And I love when the guy's like, "Please, I got money," and he just like more like, what do I be more annoyed about? The fact that I'm dying, or that this guy won't shut up, and then just kind of like casually.
Right when the movie came out, I know there were some people that were like, "This." It's not the very end scene, but it's basically the end scene, right? It's the end of the main film.
Of the story, yeah.
Being like, it's like very Tarantino. I'm like, I know, I love it. It's great. Like, why shouldn't he in a vampire movie get revenge on the fucking Grand Wizard of the KKK? Like, why not? Also, it's foreshadowed at the beginning when they're buying the place. They're indicating like we got to prepare for when they come back. Like he knows that white men are not going to let black men own property in like in this place at this time, right? So I love that he had like holes dug in the ground that had machine guns in it. Like I was like, yes, get him. And beautiful moment where he takes a cigarette off of him and then shoots him.
That's good
it's
too.
Like just to the last, you know, drink it to the last drop.
And then we get our ending, which if you're going to do a cameo in a movie, this is the way you do it. It's not a throwaway, just an appearance. He plays a character. And of course, we flash forward to 1986, where with a now grown Sammy, who has become a legendary blues musician, played none other by legendary blues musician Buddy Guy, who has is really good in it. He only has a few lines, but like I was a little worried when I first saw it and realized it was him. I was like, oh no. Don't get this 100-year-old man out here and then make him not be able to do these lines, but he's good. And we see that Stack as a vampire and Mary come back and visit him and have this like menacing but also kind of like sweet like moment where like he's like, I promised my brother I wouldn't kill you. But yeah, how did you like that little
I liked it. It made me feel like it was, and this is another way, not directly in the sense that it's referential, but this is another way in which it feels like a 90s movie to me, where it just kind of has that really defined narrative structure where it's like 3 acts and then there's kind of the closer of everybody's story has some conclusion or satisfying moment. It just feels like a blockbuster moment to me, and I liked it a lot.
Really cool.
And delightful to see them in their garb,
in their 80s like really loud sweater. And then we get to probably over the credits the best song of the movie. I did not like it. I'm making a joke because I think it's stinky, but I want to say what you like, which is Rod Wave did a song for this movie, which is the one that plays over the credits. Did you notice it was Rod Wave?
Clearly left an impression on me.
It's not good. It's not good at all. I also wanted to ask, have you ever read the comic book series American Vampire?
I have not.
I feel like you would dig it. It's by Scott Snyder, who is a great comic book writer that I like. He does really cool Batman stuff.
Okay.
He's also done some really cool not superhero related stuff, including horror. But he did this series called American Vampire, which is very similar in that it's an anthology, like each book. But it's about like there's characters that cross over, but it's vampires dropped in like different periods of American history. I can't remember all of them now, but I do think there is one that's like antebellum era. I think there's definitely one that's like Victorian Gilded Age. There's one like 1950s car culture. But it's a really cool series too that like
also apparently Stephen King wrote some of the stories.
They wrote
them.
So the first one was the first one that came out. I'm trying to remember because I've read them as they came out at first, but the first one was like a 2-hander where Stephen King wrote this story and Scott Snyder wrote the other. Scott Snyder's was way better, and he has like he's a comic book writer too. Like he just is a better command of story of the medium, and then he continued writing them with the artist.
That is a cool name.
But he
you know what? It honestly sounds like a vampire name. Like somebody who's like, I'm enduring through time. I'm just going to choose something cool.
But he continued the series sans Stephen King. That like Stephen King might have come back in every once in a while, but most of the series is just Scott Snyder writing.
Okay. Apparently the first story takes place in 1925.
Yeah, I think that's the like Victorian one, if I remember. But yeah. You should check it out. It's very cool. But yeah, do we have anything else that we want to add for Sinners?
I love this movie.
Ooh.
I think it will stand the test of time as one of the best movies of this decade. If not, already I would consider it to be certainly one of the better mainstream releases of the 21st century. And I'm really excited to see what Coogler does next. And as I say before, I'd really love Michael B. Jordan to do like a pure drama and not put on any more superhero outfits for a little while.
Please. Does he have
does a great job, does a great job. But I would just really he consistently demonstrates that he's a very talented actor, and I would love to see him be able to push that in the direction of a pure drama.
Cool.
Love it.
Well, for our next one, we're gonna watch the film Missing by Costas Gavras and do a 3-film series on Pinochet and the coup in Chile. So that'll be fun. It's gonna be
fun. Yeah.
Hey, Missing is a romp. Like, it's very serious, but it is fun. And then one of them's a comedy because we're gonna watch El Conde, which is about Pinochet being a vampire, I believe. And then No with Gail Garcia. I don't know much about, but that one looks less exciting than the other two, so that one might not be as fun. But
so I was gonna say weird connection. Since we're next watching Costa Gavras film, he is the cousin of Penelope Spheris, which
really?
Yes, was when I was doing a deep dive. I'm like, what did this woman make? She's still alive, but she's made her oeuvre is so odd. It's all over the place. And then I'm on her Wikipedia, like, what?
That's
her cousin
really
is
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting connection there.
Oh yeah. All right, cool. We'll get you on the next one,
where we'll find more interesting connections.
Yes.
Bye.